Main topic for this week, you can see, is titled Climates. Climate's kind of the culmination then of everything we've talked about so far with weather and meteorology. Climate is really things that are long-term weather patterns that exist over maybe 100 years, 1,000 years, thousands of years. So, so far we've dealt with severe weather, storm systems, fronts, air pressures, things of that nature, Earth's atmosphere. But climate really, again, ties everything together. So this is a two-pager. There's a little bit that goes into this one. And again, I do have some additional pictures that we can look at. It's a little small, but I can enlarge this when we get to that, and I'll show you that then. All right, so capital letter A. Climate is the long-term mean of weather conditions in an area that's called the area's climate. Obviously, that's what climate is. All right, there are four major factors then that really affect climate. Wind is a big factor that affects climate. Temperature obviously affects climates. Precipitation and the moisture content. So that would be how much precipitation over periods of time. So the moisture content, or just moisture, M-O-I-S-T-U-R-E. So with climate then, in order to understand it, for Earth, they talk about these five spheres or five zones that interact to determine an area's climate. One of those is called the biosphere, B-I-O-S-P-H-E-R-E. Bio is all the living things that affect a region. You've got the atmosphere. Atmosphere is obviously everything up above the surface of the Earth. You've got the lithosphere, L-I-T-H-O-S-P-H-E-R-E. That's the surface of the Earth. So Earth's crust, all the rock material, surface features that include that. You've got the hydrosphere, H-Y-D-R-O-S-P-H-E-R-E. Hydrosphere is all of Earth's water systems. So lakes, rivers, oceans, streams, creeks, ponds, all that good stuff. And the final one is called the cryosphere. Any guesses as to what you think cryosphere is? Cryo is anything frozen. So that would be like all the glaciers, the Arctic ice, things of that nature would be the cryosphere, C-R-Y-O-S-P-H-E-R-E. All right, but the primary factor that does influence an area's climate is definitely its latitude. So where it exists, basically away from the equator, its degree latitude, L-A-T-I-T-U-D-E. An area's climate is also affected by the location of nearby mountains. I'm sorry, I skipped one there. An area's climate is affected by the distance from major bodies of water. So we live in Western Pennsylvania. We're not really greatly influenced by oceans here. Lake Erie is probably the closest thing to us, but it's far enough away that we don't generally have weather patterns. Although we do get every once in a while lake effect snow during the wintertime, which is probably right now. So we could have some hard snow squalls and things like that pop up due to lake effect snow. Number two, then, that's the one I almost skipped ahead to. An area's climate is affected by the location of nearby mountains. Now that obviously does affect us here. We live very close or on or near the Appalachian Mountains, or what's left of them. So mountains affect an area's climate. An area's climate is affected by whether or not it's on the east or west side of continents. So we're on the eastern side of our country, so our climate is quite different from the western side of our country. Just remember that temperature decreases with latitude because of the angles at which the solar rays strike the Earth. So we're about a little bit less halfway between the equator and the North Pole. It's 90 degrees from the equator to the North Pole. We're sitting at about 40 to 41 degrees north latitude. So we're not quite halfway. So our temperatures are just average. We're kind of in between tropics and Arctic weather or climates. All right, another thing that influences climates, then letter C, deals with how close we are to water sources and things like that. So capital letter A is called maritime, M-A-R-I-T-I-M-E. Maritime climate has strong ocean influences, and continental climates do not. We're obviously more of a continental climate. Number one, rain, snow, sleet, and hail, all forms of precipitation, obviously. They're the keys to that. Do you know the difference between sleet and hail? Sleet happens during the winter time. You've got rain that's falling, but you've got cold air that's close to the surface, and it tends to freeze right when it hits the surface. A lot of times it freezes on our car windshields and things like that, which can make driving dangerous. Hail is ice as well, but hail happens more in the spring, late spring, early summer, during severe thunderstorms. Basically, you get these updrafts of wind that keep kicking the ice pellet back up into the atmosphere. So it keeps growing bigger and bigger and bigger until it eventually falls as hail. So that's the difference between sleet and hail. Number two, mountains influence climate because they act as barriers to wind, basically. Mountains can block wind or make them severe on one side. And number three, there's something called land breezes and sea breezes. Sea breeze blows towards the land in the afternoon and out towards the sea at night. It's called land breeze. But the blank for number three is called a sea breeze. And whenever you do some reading with this section in the textbook, there's some pictures of sea breezes and land breezes in there. All right, there are three major climate types. The three climate types are cold and dry. So it's either cold and dry climate. Something called arid and semi-arid. Arid spelled A-R-I-D, semi-arid. And the other one is warm and wet climates, which is more of your tropical type climates. All right, Earth's changing climates then. Oh, I guess I should have told you. Here are the different climate types then. It's a little bit small, I can see. If I blow it up, the picture goes off screen a little bit, but you can look at the ones that are in the southern hemisphere here. So you've got your arid, semi-arid. You can see Australia has like a lot of these that you're noticing. No dry seasons, very wet towards the tropics where the rainforests are, places that location. Unfortunately, when I enlarge it, we lose us. But here in North America, you can see we're kind of this greenish type climate, which if I come back down, yeah, basically we don't have a dry season. We're pretty wet year round, basically. So we've got a humid, warm climate, basically, is what we're part of. All right, so the second page, Earth's changing climates. The change in climate that occur during the year are called seasonal. So we get seasonal changes in climate. At the peak of the last ice age, glaciers covered most of the middle and high latitudes of the Earth. The glaciers actually extended down into Pennsylvania. It made it as far as something called Moraine State Park. There's moraines that are there that are left over from the last glacial ice age here in Pennsylvania. There was a little ice age that occurred during the Middle Ages, during the Dark Ages. So that wasn't that long ago. It was only about 500-600 years ago. Number two, possible causes of climate warming and cooling could be the tilt of the Earth, so Earth's tilt, and sunspots. The sun gets something called sunspots, which can bring on climate changes. Another influence of climates is human activity. How so? Well, it modifies the amount of surface heating on Earth and affects something called the carbon cycle. That's whenever we put too much pollution in the air, too much carbon dioxide. And it also affects the water cycle as well. Again, both of those deal with pollution. So the burning of fossil fuels increases the amount of CO2, carbon dioxide, in the atmosphere. Excuse me. Global warming is the result then of increase in the amount of water vapor and carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So CO2 and water vapor in the atmosphere. And the last thing, you may have heard of these before. These are very unique weather conditions. They're mostly talked about out west. These are the ones that I always bring in, like the Santa Ana winds in California that cause a lot of issues. But letter D, climate change involves oceans in the atmosphere and occurs every 3 to 5 years. One is called El Nino, E-L, second word, N-I-N-O, or La Nina, which isn't as common here in in the United States. It happens more over in other parts of the world. But La Nina is L-A, and the second word is N-I-N-A. So that completes the discussion on climates and climate changes. So you can complete the assignments that go with this section.